car! Get out from my car! You barren woman is over!
Sir, please give me some place to rest. My husband kicked me out.
Billionaire Misjudged, a woman by calling her a gold digger. Unaware she will steal her heart. Hello, Mr. Hope fans, this is another one. Let's all enjoy. Jordan Carter was the kind of man people described in quick whispers. Successful, private, sharp-eyed. In his early 30s, he'd built his money the hard way, and lately he'd been building walls even faster than he built businesses. He barely looked up until a soft voice stopped him. "Excuse me, sir." Jordan froze. Standing by the gate, right where deliveries usually dropped off packages, was a woman who looked like she belonged on the cover of a magazine, not outside someone's home asking for help. Her hair was neatly styled, her lashes long and delicate, her makeup clean and elegant. Her outfit wasn't flashy, but it was polished, like someone who took pride in herself even on a bad day. But her eyes were tired, and they held a kind of quiet fear that didn't match the rest of her. Jordan's jaw tightened. "Can I help you?" he asked, though his tone already carried suspicion. The woman swallowed. "My name is Aaliyah King," she said softly, her voice shaking just enough to reveal she was fighting tears. I don't have anywhere to go right now. Please, I'm not asking for much. I just need a place to sleep, eat, and rest, just for tonight." Jordan blinked once, hard. Aaliyah King, a stranger, at his gate, looking like that. His mind didn't go to compassion first. It went to memories, to betrayal, to the kind of sweet voice that asked for just one favor, and later left you counting what was missing. He laughed without humor. "So that's the plan now?" he said. "Show up at a man's gate dressed like trouble, batting your lashes, asking for just one night?" Aaliyah's face fell. "No, sir, it's not like that, I swear." Jordan stepped closer, his voice dropping. "You don't even know me. You picked this house for a reason, and I'm not interested in being anyone's target." Her lips trembled. "I didn't pick you. I was just walking. I didn't know where else." "Stop!" Jordan snapped. His anger rose too fast, like it had been waiting for a place to land. He reached into the small bag he carried from the car, pulled out a bottled drink he hadn't even opened yet, and without thinking, without checking his heart, he twisted the cap. Aaliyah's brows lifted in confusion. Then Jordan splashed it. The cold liquid hit her shoulder and front of her blouse, dripping down like a cruel joke. Aaliyah gasped, stepping back as if the humiliation had slapped her harder than a hand ever could. Jordan's breath came heavy. For a second, he looked at her the way you look at a mistake you can't undo. Aaliyah didn't yell. She didn't curse. She simply stood there, blinking fast, trying not to cry. Then she whispered, "You didn't have to do that." Her voice carried something that made Jordan's stomach twist, hurt mixed with dignity. Aaliyah turned away slowly, holding her bag close to her chest, as if it was the only thing she had left. She walked down the road with careful steps, like even the ground beneath her didn't deserve the weight of her shame. Jordan watched her go, his chest tight, his pride stubbornly insisting he'd done the right thing. But deep down, somewhere beneath the anger, something else whispered, "What if you're wrong?" And for the first time in a long time, Jordan Carter didn't feel powerful. He felt exposed. Minutes after Aaliyah disappeared down the road, the air around Jordan Carter's gate felt different, too quiet, too heavy, like it was holding its breath. Jordan stood there with his briefcase hanging at his side, staring at the wet streaks on the driveway where the drink had splashed. His phone buzzed again, but he didn't answer. His throat felt tight, and the anger that had flared so fast was already burning out, leaving something worse behind: regret. "Mr. Carter," the voice came from the small security booth beside the gate. Reggie Thompson, Jordan's longtime gate attendant, stepped out carefully. Reggie was a middle-aged black man with calm eyes and a steady way of speaking, the kind of person who'd seen enough of life to recognize real pain when it walked past him. Jordan didn't look at him. Yeah? Reggie hesitated, then nodded toward the road where Aaliyah had vanished. That woman, she wasn't playing you. Jordan's jaw tightened again, more defensively this time. You don't know that. Reggie's expression didn't change. I know desperation when I see it, and I know dignity too. She had both. People who hustle don't ask like that. They demand, they flirt, they bargain. He paused. She didn't bargain, sir. She begged. Jordan's stomach turned. Reggie took a breath. I overheard her on the phone before you came out. She was trying to call someone. She kept saying, "Please, I don't know where to go." Then she said something that stuck with me. Reggie's voice softened. She said, "My husband put me out." Jordan's eyes finally snapped to him. Her husband? Reggie nodded. Yes, sir. She ain't out here chasing money. She's out here trying to survive. Jordan swallowed hard. The picture in his head, gold digger, scammer, opportunist, shattered, and in its place, he saw what he'd ignored the first time. Those tired eyes, that trembling voice, that quiet dignity after humiliation. Jordan's pride fought to stay standing, but his conscience hit harder. Without another word, Jordan tossed his briefcase onto the front seat of his car and jogged down the sidewalk in the direction Aaliyah had gone. His dress shoes slapped the pavement, and with every step, his chest tightened more. He spotted her ahead, walking slowly, shoulders stiff, holding her bag like it was armor. Her blouse was still damp, and the sun made the wet fabric shine in a way that felt like it was announcing her shame to the world. Aaliyah, Jordan called. She stopped but didn't turn around right away. When she finally did, her face was composed, but her eyes were glassy. Jordan slowed, breathing hard. Up close, she looked even more exhausted than before. Beautiful, yes, but not the confident kind of beauty people envy. This was the beauty of someone trying not to fall apart in public. I'm sorry, Jordan said, the words rough like they hurt to say. I was wrong. Aaliyah blinked. You don't know me, she replied quietly. But you judged me anyway. Jordan lowered his gaze. Because someone hurt me before and I let that turn me into someone I don't recognize. Aaliyah's lips pressed together. That doesn't make what you did okay. It doesn't, Jordan admitted immediately. And I won't excuse it. I want to fix it if you'll let me. He stepped back, giving her space. Come back. You can have the guest room, food, a shower, rest, no strings attached, I swear. Aaliyah studied him carefully, like she was searching for a hidden trap. When she spoke again, her voice was small but steady. Why should I trust you? Jordan's eyes lifted. Because you shouldn't have to sleep outside tonight because of my bitterness. Silence stretched between them. Then Aaliyah exhaled shakily. One night, she said, just to rest, and in the morning, I'll leave. Jordan nodded quickly. That's fair. As they walked back toward the gate together, Reggie opened it with a quiet, satisfied nod, as if he'd just watched mercy win a battle. Inside the house, the front door swung open before Jordan even reached it. A woman with silver-streaked hair and a stern, loving face stood there, hands on her hips. This was Miss Evelyn Nana Eve Harper, Jordan's live-in housekeeper, who had helped raise him after his father passed. She wasn't family by blood, but she was family by backbone, and she could read Jordan's spirit like a book. Her eyes moved from Jordan to Aaliyah's damp blouse, to Jordan's guilty face. Oh, Jordan, Nana Eve said quietly, disappointment woven through her words. What did you do? Jordan opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Aaliyah lowered her eyes, clutching her bag, and just like that, the truth Jordan had tried to bury all these years rose to the surface again, loud enough to haunt the whole house. because this wasn't only about Aaliyah. It was about the kind of man Jordan Carter was becoming, and whether love could still reach him before it was too late. Later that night, after Aaliyah finally fell asleep in the guest room, Jordan stood in the hallway outside her door, listening to the quiet. The house smelled faintly of warm food and clean soap, simple comforts that suddenly felt sacred. Nana Eve had given Aaliyah a fresh robe, warm tea, and a plate of food, without asking too many questions. Reggie had gone back to his booth. The world had settled, but Jordan couldn't. He kept seeing Aaliyah's face at the gate, how she held herself together like breaking was not an option, and the question gnawed at him, what happened to her? As Jordan stared at the closed door, the story of Aaliyah King didn't begin at his gate. It began earlier that same morning, in a different house, under a different roof, where love had turned into blame. Aaliyah stood in front of the bathroom mirror, smoothing the collar of her blouse with slow hands. Her lips were pressed into a calm line, but her eyes were puffy, like she'd been crying before she decided she was done crying. On the nightstand beside her bed sat a small Bible with worn edges and a sticky note that read, "Keep believing." Behind her, a voice cut through the room like a slap. "Why are you taking so long?" he snapped. Marcus King, Aaliyah's husband, leaned against the doorway with a scowl. Marcus was a handsome black man in his mid-30s, the type people admired from a distance. Sharp suit, confident walk, expensive watch. But at home, his confidence turned cruel. He carried his pride like a weapon, and lately he'd been aiming it at Aaliyah. Aaliyah didn't turn around fast. She stayed gentle. "I'm almost ready," Marcus scoffed. "We been almost ready for 5 years, Aaliyah." Her shoulders tensed, but her voice stayed low. "Please don't start. Don't start." Marcus stepped closer. "You think I enjoy this? Watching everybody else have kids while I'm stuck in a house with—" He paused, letting the insult hang like smoke. "With a woman who can't give me a child." Aaliyah finally turned to face him. Her eyes shimmered, but she refused to let tears fall. "That's not fair," Marcus laughed, bitter. "Life ain't fair. My mama asks me every Sunday, 'When you gonna make me a grandma?' My friends ask, my co-workers ask." He pointed at her like she was the problem standing in his way. "And every time, I got a cover for you." Aaliyah's chest rose and fell. "We said we'd do this together." "We are doing it," Marcus barked. "That's why you're going to that hospital today. They gonna tell you what's wrong, and we gonna fix it. I'm tired of waiting." Aaliyah glanced down, then whispered, "What if it's not me?" Marcus's face hardened. "It's you," he said flatly, like it was a fact he'd already decided. "Because I'm fine." Aaliyah didn't argue. She stepped past him, grabbed her purse, and paused at the bedroom door. Her fingers brushed the worn Bible on the nightstand, like it was the only thing keeping her steady. In the living room, the driver was waiting. Derek Miles was a quiet, professional black man in his 40s who'd worked for Marcus for years. He kept his eyes forward, his mouth shut, and his emotions locked down, because in Marcus's world, people got punished for having opinions. But as Aaliyah walked past him, Derek noticed her trembling hands, and the way she kept swallowing like she was trying to force strength into her throat. Marcus stormed out behind her. "Car's outside," he said. "Don't embarrass me in that office." Aaliyah climbed into the back seat, silently. Marcus got in beside her with the heavy energy of a man who believed he was entitled to answers and someone to blame. As Derek pulled away from the curb, Aaliyah stared out the window at the bright morning sky, her reflection faint against the glass. Her lips moved without sound. It wasn't anger, it wasn't even fear. It was prayer. Because even as her marriage cracked under the weight of Marcus's bitterness, Aaliyah King was still holding on to faith, with both hands, and she had no idea that by the end of the day, she would be walking alone toward a stranger's gate, carrying nothing but dignity and a broken heart. An hour later, the car rolled into the hospital parking lot, and Aaliyah's stomach tightened the moment she saw the bright glass doors and the families walking in and out. Some were smiling, some were tired, some held ultrasound pictures like treasure. Aaliyah watched them and wondered what it felt like to be one of them. Marcus slammed the door when he stepped out, adjusting his suit like the world owed him respect. "Let's go," he said sharply, not looking back to see if Aaliyah was okay. Derek parked and followed a few steps behind, quiet as always. Inside, the fertility clinic smelled like hand sanitizer and fresh coffee. Aaliyah sat in the waiting room with her purse in her lap, her fingers clasped tightly together. Marcus sat beside her, tapping his foot like patience was a punishment. When the nurse called their names, Marcus stood first. "Finally," he muttered. They were led into an office where a woman in a white coat entered with a clipboard and a professional calm that made her feel like the only steady thing in the room. "This is Dr. Danielle Wright," the nurse said, warmly, before stepping out. Dr. Wright was a black woman in her late 30s with neat braids pulled back and intelligent eyes that didn't miss details, especially not emotional ones. She greeted them with a firm handshake and a kind smile. "Mr. and Mrs. King," she said. "I'm glad you both came in today." Marcus leaned back as if he owned the chair. "We're here because she needs answers," he said, nodding toward Aaliyah like she was a case file. Aaliyah flinched slightly, but kept her voice gentle. "We both do," she corrected softly. Dr. Wright's gaze moved between them. "That's exactly right," she said. "Infertility is a couple's issue, not a woman's issue. So we run tests on both partners." Marcus's smile turned stiff. "I already told you, I'm fine." Dr. Wright didn't argue. "We'll let the results speak." The next hour was uncomfortable. Aaliyah went through her exams quietly, cooperating with every instruction. Marcus, on the other hand, seemed irritated by the process, like medicine was offending his pride. When the nurse asked him questions, he answered with impatience. When he had to do his part, he rolled his eyes and muttered under his breath. When it was finally over, they returned to Dr. Wright's office to wait. Aaliyah stared at a framed quote on the wall that read, "Hope is not a feeling, it's a decision." Marcus stared at his watch. Then Dr. Wright returned with a folder, her expression serious but not cruel. "Okay," she began, sitting across from them. "I have your results." Marcus leaned forward instantly. "So what's wrong with her?" Aaliyah's heart pounded, but she lifted her chin. Dr. Wright opened the folder. "Aaliyah's results look normal," she said plainly. "Her hormone levels, her reproductive health, everything indicates she's capable of conceiving." Aaliyah's breath caught, half relief, half shock. Marcus's face hardened. "That's impossible," Dr. Wright continued, calm and direct. "However, Marcus, your results show significant issues with sperm count and motility. Based on these findings, the primary cause of the fertility struggle is coming from your side." The room went silent. Aaliyah stared at Marcus, not with victory, but with sadness, because she already knew what his pride would do with this truth. Marcus stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "No," he snapped. "That test is wrong." Dr. Wright kept her voice steady. "I'm sorry this is hard to hear, but these results are clear. There are options, treatment plans, lifestyle changes." Marcus slammed his palm against the desk. "Options?" he shouted. "You telling me I'm the reason my family name stops with me?" Aaliyah stood too, reaching out. "Marcus, please, don't touch me," he barked, yanking his arm away like her kindness insulted him. Then he turned his anger upward, like heaven was the enemy. "So this is what God does?" Marcus said, eyes wild. "I serve him, I work hard, and he embarrasses me like this? God has disappointed me." Aaliyah's eyes filled. "Marcus, don't say that." Marcus grabbed his car keys, breathing hard. We're leaving. Dr. Wright rose, her tone firm now. Marcus, listen to me. Blame won't solve this. Your wife has carried shame that never belonged to her. The next step is accountability. Marcus shot her a look of pure hatred. You don't know my marriage. He stormed out. Aaliyah stood frozen for a moment, then turned to Dr. Wright with trembling lips. Thank you, she whispered, though it sounded like pain. Dr. Wright softened. Aaliyah, she said gently, you deserve safety. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Aaliyah nodded, wiping her face quickly before rushing out to follow Marcus. In the hallway, Marcus was already marching toward the exit, shoulders tense, jaw clenched, moving like a man who had just been exposed and was determined to punish someone for it. And as Aaliyah hurried behind him, she didn't realize the truth had just lit a fuse, because Marcus wasn't going home to heal. He was going home to break something, and Aaliyah was about to find out exactly what. That same afternoon, the moment the car doors shut, the inside of the vehicle felt like a cage. Derek Miles sat behind the wheel, hands steady at 10 and 2, eyes forward. He'd driven Marcus King through business deals, parties, and meetings, but he had never felt the air in the car this poisonous. Marcus's breathing was loud. His knee bounced, his fingers tapped against his thigh, like his anger needed somewhere to land. Aaliyah sat beside him, her purse hugged close, her gaze lowered. She wanted to speak, but every word felt like it might explode him. Marcus broke the silence first. So you happy now? He snapped, staring out the window as if the city itself had betrayed him. Aaliyah blinked. Happy? Her voice was soft, confused. Marcus, no, I'm not happy. I'm just shocked. Marcus turned toward her sharply. Shocked? His laugh was bitter. All this time, people been looking at me like I'm married to a problem. Turns out I'm the joke. Aaliyah's eyes filled, but she stayed calm. You're not a joke. We can work through this. Dr. Wright said there are options. Options, Marcus cut in. You mean like me being weak in front of everybody? Like me admitting I'm the reason you ain't had a baby? Aaliyah reached for his hand carefully. This doesn't make you less of a man. Marcus yanked his hand away, like it burned. Don't preach to me, he hissed. Derek's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Aaliyah swallowed. Marcus, blaming me won't change the results. Marcus's head snapped toward her. So now you talking back? His voice climbed. All these years I carried you, paid bills, gave you a name, gave you a home, and you want to stand there like you innocent? Aaliyah stared at him, stunned. I am innocent, she whispered, not with pride, but with pain. That sentence was all it took. Marcus leaned forward, voice sharp as a blade. Derek, pull over! Derek's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Sir? I said pull over, Marcus shouted. The car slowed and rolled to the side of the road, near a quiet stretch, with trees and a long sidewalk. Aaliyah's heart began to pound so hard she could hear it. Marcus, what are you doing? She asked, voice trembling now. Marcus unbuckled his seatbelt. Getting rid of the problem. Aaliyah's breath hitched. Please. Marcus opened his door, then reached across her. His hand grabbed her wrist, not gently, and he yanked her toward the open space between them. Aaliyah, stop! Derek blurted without meaning to. His voice cracked the silence like lightning. Marcus shot him a warning look. Stay in your lane. Aaliyah's eyes widened. Marcus, please, we can talk. Talk? Marcus scoffed. I talked for 5 years. Now I'm done. He pulled her out of the car. Aaliyah stumbled onto the sidewalk, nearly falling, clutching her purse with shaking hands, her blouse wrinkled, her hair shifting out of place, her dignity fighting to stay intact. Marcus stepped out, towering over her. Then he did something that felt like a final funeral bell. He grabbed his wedding ring, slid it off his finger, then reached for Aaliyah's hand. "No," she whispered, pulling back. Marcus snatched her hand anyway and yanked her ring off. "This marriage is over," he said coldly. "You're not coming back to my house. Don't call me. Don't look for me. Don't ever show your face around me again." Aaliyah's tears finally spilled, silent and unstoppable. "Marcus, I acknowledge your pain, but why are you doing this to me?" Marcus's face twisted. "Because somebody gotta pay for my humiliation." He turned and got back into the car, like she was trash he'd tossed out. Derek hesitated, hands tight on the wheel. He looked at Aaliyah through the mirror, her trembling body, her wet cheeks, and something in him shifted. "Sir, she has nowhere to go." Marcus's voice came like a slam. "Drive." Derek's eyes closed for a brief second. Then he drove, because in Marcus's world, refusal came with consequences. Aaliyah stood there as the car disappeared into traffic. For a moment she couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't believe the life she'd built had ended on a roadside like an unwanted package. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, straightened her shoulders, and whispered through shaking lips, "God, please don't let this be the end of me." Then she started walking. Each step hurt, not because her feet were weak, but because her heart was. She walked past strangers who didn't notice her pain, past cars that didn't slow down, past houses that weren't hers anymore, and without knowing it, her path was bending toward a neighborhood where tall gates stood like silent judges, toward the place where Jordan Carter would soon rush home from work, toward the moment that would change both their lives forever. That evening, after the house had gone quiet, Aaliyah lay on the neatly made guest bed and stared at the ceiling like it might explain how her life had flipped in one day. The room was warm, bright, and peaceful. Too peaceful for the storm still raging inside her chest. Clean white curtains fluttered gently from the air conditioning. A soft lamp glowed on the nightstand. On a chair near the closet sat folded clothes that weren't hers, a simple pajama set, a fresh towel, and a robe placed there with care. She didn't know how long she'd been holding her breath until she finally exhaled and felt her shoulders drop. A knock sounded softly on the door. Aaliyah sat up quickly. "Yes?" The door opened just a crack, and a woman stepped in with a tray. This was Miss Evelyn Nana Eve Harper, the older woman Jordan had called Nana outside. Nana Eve wasn't small, but she carried herself like someone even bigger people made room for. Steady, warm, and unafraid to correct what needed correcting. Her eyes were sharp, but her voice had the softness of a grandmother who had prayed for you before you even knew you needed prayer. "I'm not here to interrogate you, baby," Nana Eve said gently, setting the tray down. "I'm here to make sure you eat." On the tray was rice, chicken, and vegetables, along with a cup of tea. Aaliyah's throat tightened. "Thank you," she whispered. Nana Eve glanced at Aaliyah's damp blouse draped over a chair, the stain still faint on the fabric. Her eyes narrowed, not at Aaliyah, but at the memory of what had happened. "That boy," Nana Eve muttered, shaking her head. "Jordan done let his pain turn into poison sometimes." Aaliyah blinked. He apologized." "He better," Nana Eve replied, then softened. "You rest. You're safe here tonight." Aaliyah hesitated. "I don't want to cause trouble. I'm not looking for anything from him." Nana Eve's gaze held hers. "Good. And he ain't looking for anything from you either. He knows better." She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice like a promise. "In this house, we do things the right way. Respect, boundaries, honor." Aaliyah nodded, grateful for the clarity. Nana Eve patted her shoulder once. "Eat, pray if you need to. Sleep like your soul deserves a break." When Nana Eve left, Aaliyah ate slowly, every bite tasting like survival. Then she stood, took a long shower, and watched water carry away the dust of the road, though it couldn't wash away the humiliation in her heart. Afterward, she knelt beside the bed. God, she whispered, voice trembling, I don't understand why this happened, but please don't let my heart become hard. Please, guide me. Aaliyah climbed into bed, but sleep didn't come easily. On the other side of the hallway, Jordan Carter stood in his own room with his tie loosened, replaying the day like a punishment he deserved. He kept seeing the drink splash across Aaliyah's blouse, the way she turned away without screaming, without begging, just hurting. He heard footsteps behind him. Nana Eve stepped into his doorway without asking. Jordan didn't turn. I know, he said quietly. I messed up. Nana Eve crossed her arms. You didn't just mess up. You acted like a man who forgot where his blessings come from. Jordan flinched at the word, blessings. Nana Eve pointed down the hall. That woman didn't come here to tempt you. She came here because life pushed her to the edge, and you added to it. Jordan's voice dropped. I thought she was... Don't say it, Nana Eve interrupted. You thought wrong, and you better make sure your sorry comes with action, not just words. Jordan nodded, swallowing hard. I told her she can stay tonight. That's it. No pressure. Nana Eve's eyes softened just a little. Good, because if you try to use her weakness for your comfort, I'll personally pack your bags and sit you on that porch. Jordan let out a small breath, half laugh, half shame. Yes, ma'am. Nana Eve turned to leave, then paused. And Jordan? He looked up. Her voice became gentle. You can't keep punishing new people for what old people did. The words landed deep. After Nana Eve left, Jordan walked to the kitchen for water. When he passed the guest room, he stopped. He didn't knock. He didn't enter. He simply stood outside the door and spoke softly so Aaliyah could hear without feeling trapped. Aaliyah, he said, if you need anything, food, a phone charger, anything, you can call out. You're safe here, I promise. There was a pause. Then, from inside, Aaliyah's voice came quietly, careful and tired. Thank you, Jordan. He stood there for one more second, then walked away, feeling something unfamiliar shift in his chest. Not attraction, not relief. Something closer to conviction. Because the more Jordan looked at Aaliyah, the more he realized her pain wasn't a performance, and it brought back a painful question Jordan had avoided for years. What happened to me that made me stop believing in good women? The following morning, sunlight poured into the kitchen like God declared a fresh start, whether anyone felt ready for it or not. Aaliyah stepped in quietly, freshly washed and dressed in a simple outfit Nana Eve had given her. Her hair was pulled back neatly, and her face was bare of makeup now. Without the lashes and polish from the day before, she looked younger, still beautiful, but in a softer, more real way. The kind of beauty that didn't try to convince you of anything. Nana Eve was already at the stove. Morning, baby, Nana Eve said, flipping pancakes with the confidence of a woman who had fed generations. Sit down before I start hollering. Aaliyah gave a small, tired smile and sat at the table. Thank you for everything, she said. I didn't expect kindness after yesterday. Nana Eve snorted. Kindness ain't something you expect. It's something people choose. She slid a plate in front of Aaliyah. And around here, we choose it. Aaliyah looked down at the food like it was more than breakfast, like it was proof she wasn't invisible. Footsteps sounded behind them. Jordan walked in, wearing a fitted white shirt and dark slacks, his hair neatly trimmed, his face clean-shaven. In the morning light, he looked less like the angry man from the gate, and more like the disciplined businessman he probably was, controlled, careful, and guarded. His eyes met Aaliyah's for a second. He didn't smile, but his voice was quiet. Morning, Aaliyah nodded. Good morning. Jordan poured coffee and leaned against the counter, keeping a respectful distance. He looked like someone who didn't know what to do with a second chance, but didn't want to waste it either. Nana Eve watched him with a look that said, "Try Jesus, not me." Jordan cleared his throat. "How are you feeling today?" Aaliyah hesitated, then answered honestly. "Tired, but better than yesterday." Jordan nodded slowly. "If you need to make calls, you can use my phone, or I can have Reggie drive you somewhere safe." Aaliyah blinked. "Reggie." Jordan glanced toward the window, a faint softness touching his eyes. "My gate attendant, Mr. Reggie Thompson. He's the one who made me realize I was wrong." Aaliyah absorbed that, surprised. "Tell him thank you." "I will," Jordan said, then paused. "And I'm still sorry." Aaliyah didn't rush to comfort him. She simply said, "I accept your apology." Those 4 words landed heavy because they weren't romantic. They weren't flirty. They were mature, earned, real. Jordan looked down at his coffee. "You don't have to tell me what happened," he said. "But I want you to know you're not trapped here. You can leave whenever you want." Aaliyah stared at him for a moment. "You're very careful," she observed softly. Jordan's eyes lifted. "Careful?" Aaliyah nodded. "You speak like you're afraid of being misunderstood, like you don't want anyone too close." Nana Eve's spatula paused midair. Jordan's jaw tightened, just slightly. "People change when you let them too close," he said. Aaliyah's voice was gentle. "Sometimes they do, but sometimes they heal you." Jordan didn't respond right away. He turned toward the sink and rinsed his cup longer than necessary, like water could wash away memory. Nana Eve slid into the chair across from Aaliyah and lowered her voice. "Don't take it personal, baby," she murmured. Jordan's heart been wounded. Aaliyah's brows lifted. "What happened?" Nana Eve's eyes softened with a mix of anger and sadness. "A woman he loved nearly ruined him," she said. "And ever since then, he's been building walls taller than this whole house." Aaliyah looked at Jordan's back, the rigid shoulders, the stiff posture, the silence he wore like armor. "I'm not here to hurt him," Aaliyah whispered, more to herself than to Nana Eve. Nana Eve nodded. "I know, but he don't know what to do with a woman who's genuine. He forgot what that looks like." Jordan turned around then, as if he felt the weight of their conversation, even from across the room. He walked back to the counter, his eyes briefly meeting Nana Eve's. Nana Eve raised a brow, daring him to keep hiding. Jordan exhaled slowly. "Aaliyah," he said, voice low, "if you want, I can help you find a place, a hotel for a few nights, or somewhere safer." Aaliyah's hands tightened around her fork. "I don't have much money," she admitted quietly. "And I don't have anyone I can trust right now." Jordan's eyes shifted, and for the first time, his voice carried something softer than caution. "I know what it's like," he said, almost under his breath. "To think you can trust someone, and then realize you were just convenient." Aaliyah looked up. "What happened to you?" Jordan's face went still. His gaze moved somewhere far away. Then he said the name like it tasted bitter. "Simone," and the way he said it told Aaliyah everything. The story behind that name was the reason Jordan Carter didn't believe in love the way he used to. That same morning, Jordan's voice trailed off, and the kitchen seemed to fade behind his eyes. Aaliyah noticed it immediately, the way his shoulders stiffened, the way his jaw locked, the way he stared at nothing like he was watching something painful replay on a screen only he could see. Nana Eve didn't push him. She simply went back to the stove, flipping pancakes as if giving him space was her form of love. Aaliyah sat still, her curiosity quiet, respectful. Jordan finally spoke, but his voice sounded distant. "Simone Brooks," he said again, slower this time. "She was my future. At least I thought she was." And then the memory took him. It had been 2 years ago, On a bright Friday afternoon, Jordan Carter pulled into his driveway earlier than usual, the kind of early that surprises even you. His biggest contract of the year had just closed, and for once he felt light. He'd stopped to pick up flowers, nothing dramatic, just a simple bouquet, because he wanted to celebrate with the woman he planned to marry. Back then, Jordan wasn't guarded. Back then, he smiled more. He walked into the house quietly, thinking he'd catch Simone by surprise. Simone Brooks was his fiancée, beautiful, sharp and charming in a way that made rooms lean toward her. A black woman in her late 20s with a bold laugh and an easy confidence. Simone knew how to make Jordan feel like a king, and Jordan, in return, built her a world he thought was safe. Jordan stepped into the hallway, calling softly, "Simone?" No answer, but he heard something, a laugh, low, unfamiliar. Jordan's steps slowed, his grip tightened around the flowers. Then he heard a man's voice, and the sound of the bed creaking upstairs. His stomach dropped. Jordan moved like his body didn't want to believe what his mind already knew. He climbed the stairs quietly, each step heavier than the last, until he reached the bedroom door. It was slightly open. Jordan pushed it wider, and there they were, Simone on the bed, and a man beside her, shirtless, relaxed, as if he belonged there. Jordan froze. The flowers slipped from his fingers and hit the floor with a soft thud. Simone's head snapped up, her eyes widened. "Jordan!" Jordan couldn't speak. His chest felt like it had been punched. The room spun, not from anger first, but from disbelief. The man sat up slowly, shameless. "So this the guy?" he said, smirking. Jordan finally found his voice, but it came out low and trembling. "How long?" Simone scrambled off the bed, reaching for a robe. "It's not what it looks like." Jordan's laugh was hollow. "It's exactly what it looks like." Simone's mouth opened, then closed. Tears formed fast, but Jordan's heart didn't move toward them. He had seen enough. He turned away and walked downstairs, needing air, needing distance, needing anything but that image. But the betrayal didn't stop at the bedroom door. Jordan went straight to his office, because something inside him whispered that love wasn't the only thing being stolen. He opened his desk drawer, the folder with his business documents, missing. He logged into his laptop, hands shaking, and checked his accounts. A large transfer had been initiated earlier that day. His money, his investment funds, the savings he'd built from scratch, gone. Jordan's vision blurred. He stumbled back, breathing hard. Upstairs, Simone was rushing after him, her voice cracking. "Jordan, please! I didn't mean for it to happen like this." Jordan turned slowly, pain sharpening into something colder. "You didn't just cheat," he said, voice steady now. "You robbed me." Simone shook her head, frantic. He convinced me. He said—" Jordan cut her off. "So you sold me out for a man who didn't even respect you enough to put his clothes on in my house." Simone sobbed. "I'm sorry." Jordan stared at her for a long moment, then picked the flowers off the floor and dropped them into the trash like they meant nothing now. That was the day something in Jordan died. Not his success, not his ambition, his trust. He walked past Simone without touching her, without yelling, without begging for answers. At the door, he paused and said the words that became the foundation of the walls he built afterward. "I will never let anyone make a fool out of me again." Back in the kitchen, Jordan's eyes were darker than before. Aaliyah's heart ached, not because she was excusing him, but because she understood what betrayal does to a person. Now the gate incident made sense. Jordan hadn't only seen a stranger, he had seen a threat. And the question that hovered between them now was simple, but heavy. Could a wounded man learn to trust again, without destroying the next good thing God sent his way? A week passed after the morning. Jordan finally said Simone's name out loud, and the house settled into a strange new rhythm. One built on caution, quiet conversations, and two people trying not to need each other too much. Aaliyah stayed in the guest room, kept her things neatly packed, and moved through the home like a respectful visitor. She helped Nana Eve in the kitchen when she could, washed dishes without being asked, and never wandered into Jordan's private spaces. She made calls too, short ones, careful ones, trying to reach her mother without letting the full weight of her shame spill through the phone. Jordan, on the other hand, became predictably unpredictable. Some days he was kind in small ways, ordering extra groceries without mentioning her, leaving a new phone charger on the counter, paying for a ride when she needed to go to the pharmacy. Other days he retreated into silence, disappearing into his office for hours, like emotions were a weakness he couldn't afford. But even when he went quiet, he never went cruel again. And that mattered. One bright Saturday morning, Nana Eve stood in the living room, holding her purse like a judge holding a verdict. "Both of y'all," she announced. "Get dressed. We going to church." Aaliyah blinked. "Church?" Jordan looked up from his tablet. "Nana, No excuses," Nana Eve snapped. "You been walking around this house like a storm cloud with legs. And you," she pointed at Aaliyah gently, "been carrying pain too heavy for one person. We going to sit under the word and let God do what we can't." Aaliyah's throat tightened. She hadn't been to church since her marriage started feeling like a battlefield. Marcus didn't like church. He only liked control. Jordan sighed, clearly ready to argue, then stopped. Something in Nana Eve's tone reminded him he didn't always have to fight guidance. An hour later, they sat in a modest, bright sanctuary, filled with singing voices and clapping hands. The sunlight streamed through clear windows, lighting up smiling faces and Sunday hats. Aaliyah sat beside Nana Eve, hands folded tightly, while Jordan sat on the other side, stiff and uncomfortable, like he didn't know where to put his pain. The pastor spoke about restoration, how God can rebuild what people break, and how love isn't proven through perfection, but through perseverance. Aaliyah's eyes filled. She stared down, letting the words settle into the parts of her that felt shattered. Jordan glanced sideways at her and saw a tear slip down her cheek. Something tugged at him, an emotion he hadn't given permission to exist. After service, outside the church, a few women smiled warmly at Nana Eve, then looked at Aaliyah with curiosity. Aaliyah offered a polite smile, but she could feel the silent questions. Who is she? Why is she with them? Then one woman, bold enough to say what others only thought, tilted her head and asked Nana Eve, "Is that your granddaughter? Or—" Before Nana Eve could respond, Jordan stepped forward. His voice was calm, but firm. "She's family while she's with us," he said, "and that's all you need to know." The woman blinked, embarrassed. "Oh, okay." Aaliyah stared at Jordan, surprised. Jordan didn't look at her. He just held the line, protecting her dignity without making a show of it. On the ride home, Nana Eve hummed to herself, satisfied. Derek didn't drive them. Jordan drove his own car, but the silence between Jordan and Aaliyah felt different now. Not cold, just loaded. When they got home, Aaliyah helped Nana Eve put away food containers from a church member who had insisted they take leftovers. Jordan stood nearby, pretending to check his phone, but watching Aaliyah laugh softly at something Nana Eve said. That laugh did something to him. It made the house feel alive. Later that evening, Aaliyah sat on the back patio with a cup of tea, watching the sky fade into gold. Jordan stepped outside, keeping a respectful distance as usual. "It's peaceful out here," Aaliyah said quietly. Jordan nodded. "That's why I bought this place. Quiet keeps trouble away." Aaliyah looked at him. "Quiet also keeps love away." Jordan's eyes flicked to hers. "Love isn't always safe." Aaliyah's voice softened. "Neither is loneliness." For a moment, Jordan didn't have an answer. The air between them tightened, filled with a feeling neither of them wanted to name. He could see it in her eyes too, something gentle growing under fear. Jordan cleared his throat. "You've been strong," he said, almost awkward. "After everything." Aaliyah's lips trembled into a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Strength is what people call you when they don't know what else to do with your pain." Jordan's chest tightened. He wanted to step closer. He didn't. Instead, he asked the question that had been sitting on his tongue for days. "Have you heard from your husband?" Aaliyah's face fell. "No," she admitted, "and part of me is relieved. Part of me is terrified." Jordan's voice dropped. "Terrified of what?" Aaliyah stared into her tea. "That he'll come back pretending to love me, just to punish me again." As if the moment had summoned fate, Jordan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, expecting work, but his expression changed. Nana Eve stepped into the doorway behind them. "What is it, Jordan?" Jordan swallowed once, eyes narrowing as he read the message. Then he looked at Aaliyah. "Someone just asked about you," he said quietly. Aaliyah's blood ran cold. "Who?" Jordan's jaw tightened. "Marcus King." That same night, the house didn't feel peaceful anymore. Even with bright lights on and Nana Eve humming softly in the kitchen, a cold tension had crawled into the walls like a warning. Aaliyah sat on the couch, with her hands clasped together so tightly her fingers ached. Her mind raced through the worst possibilities. Marcus showing up angry. Marcus twisting the story. Marcus dragging her back into shame. Jordan stood near the window, phone in hand, staring out as if he expected headlights to appear at any second. He looked calm on the outside, but the set of his jaw told the truth. He was ready to protect his home and the woman inside it. Nana Eve stepped into the living room, wiping her hands on a towel. "All right," she said firmly. "What did Marcus say?" Jordan turned the phone slightly, showing her the message. "I heard my wife is staying at your place. Don't play hero. Tell her to come home." Aaliyah's breath caught, and her stomach rolled. Nana Eve's eyes narrowed. He's not worried about her. He's worried about control." Aaliyah whispered, "I don't want trouble for you, Jordan." Jordan faced her, voice steady. "You're not trouble. He is." Aaliyah shook her head quickly. "You don't understand him. Marcus doesn't lose. He punishes." Jordan took a step closer, but not too close. "Then we handle him the right way," he said. "We don't panic. We don't hide. We do things clean." Aaliyah's eyes filled. "Clean doesn't stop cruel people." Jordan hesitated, then spoke with quiet authority. "You're not alone anymore." Those words hit her like warmth after a long winter. Still, fear was stubborn. Aaliyah stood and began pacing, struggling to breathe normally. "What if he comes here tonight?" she asked, voice trembling. "What if he makes a scene? What if he tells people—" Nana Eve cut in sharply. "Baby, look at me." Aaliyah froze. Nana Eve walked to her and held her shoulders with gentle firmness. "Marcus don't own the air you breathe," she said. "He don't own your future, and he sure don't own your worth." Aaliyah's lips quivered. "I tried so hard. I kept praying. I kept believing he would change." Jordan's expression softened, but pain flickered behind his eyes too, like her words were speaking to the parts of him still haunted by Simone. Aaliyah's voice cracked. "And he threw me away like garbage." That sentence broke the wall she'd been holding up all week. Aaliyah sank onto the couch, covering her mouth with her hand, as tears fell fast and heavy. She didn't scream. She didn't shout. She just cried like her heart had been waiting for a safe place to finally collapse. Jordan stood frozen for a moment, unsure. Then he sat on the edge of the coffee table in front of her, keeping his hands to himself, his voice low and careful. "You didn't deserve that," he said. "None of it." Aaliyah looked up at him with wet eyes. Then why does it feel like I'm the one being punished? Jordan swallowed. Because some people would rather destroy you than admit they're wrong. Aaliyah shook her head, exhausted. I don't know who I am, without being somebody's wife, somebody's problem, somebody's disappointment. Jordan's gaze held hers. You're Aaliyah, he said simply, and that's enough. The room went quiet except for her breathing. Aaliyah wiped her face, embarrassed. I'm sorry, I shouldn't. Don't apologize, Jordan interrupted gently. You're allowed to feel. Aaliyah's eyes searched his face. Why are you being kind to me? Jordan's voice turned rough. Because I know what it's like to be betrayed, and still have to stand up, like it didn't break you. Aaliyah's chest rose and fell. She whispered, I feel safe with you. Jordan's breath caught. That was the moment the air changed, not in a loud way, in a slow, dangerous way, like two lonely hearts leaning too close to a fire they promised not to touch. Jordan stood, as if distance could save him. Aaliyah, we need to be careful. Aaliyah nodded, but she didn't move away. Her voice was small. I don't want to feel alone tonight. Jordan stared at her, fighting himself. He should have walked away. He didn't. What happened next wasn't loud or graphic. It wasn't some wild movie moment. It was two broken people reaching for comfort before they were fully healed. And later, when the lights were off and the house was silent again, Jordan lay awake staring into the dark, heart pounding, regret and tenderness wrestling in his chest. The following morning, sunlight returned like nothing had happened. Aaliyah sat on the edge of the bed, pulling the sheet tighter around herself, her face pale with reality. Jordan stood near the window, rubbing his forehead like he'd made a decision he couldn't undo. Aaliyah spoke first, voice barely above a whisper. That wasn't supposed to happen. Jordan turned slowly, guilt clear in his eyes. You're right. Aaliyah swallowed. It was a mistake. Jordan's jaw tightened. Not because you're a mistake, he said quickly, but because we didn't do it the right way. Aaliyah nodded, tears returning.